Hello everyone, welcome to GGN. Today is Wednesday, March 27th, 2013. I'm Darko. Alright, I tried getting this little video set up for you guys, and it worked the first time, but it's just working really slow. I don't know what was going on before because it was real fast before, but either way, you can go in there and check it out. I'll post the link. It shows all the drone strikes that were going on in Pakistan. A visualization, I guess, was Berkeley-based data visualization unit created a graphic tracking of every drone strike the U.S. has carried out in Pakistan since 2004. So, all right, motives behind the Shia massacres in Pakistan. While we are talking to each other, there is an old mother sitting in the corner of her house, silently weeping the death of her young son. There is a weak and helpless father struggling to earn some money as the family's sole breadwinner is no more. So, a young man's forced to quit his studies and his dreams for his brother, who promised to educate him, is assassinated. So one of the biggest fears of hegemonic governments is the growing influence of Iran and the Shia ideology throughout the world. Unfortunately for the enemies of Islam, Shia Islam is completely the opposite of the American and Talibanized version of Islam. It says that the world has been fed since 9/11 or Islamophobia. Washington and their cronies assume that they can, that by killing people they can kill an ideology. And that's what they're doing basically in Pakistan and other parts. According to figures, in the last decade, around 20,000 civilians and 5,000 security personnel have lost their lives in Pakistan. Since the beginning of 2013 alone, around 1,000 innocent people have been killed. Hundreds of Shia scholars and professionals have been targeted in the last few months. They ask who's responsible, and they go back to this hungry General Zia ul-Haq, who laid the foundation of Shia killings in Pakistan in the 1980s. It was him who started systematically arming and funding terrorist Wahhabi organizations. And goes down here and says, naturally, this is a direct threat to those who stood to lose. It says here that this general knew this well, so did the Saudi ruling elite and their masters in Washington, London, and Tel Aviv and other parts of the world. The next thing was to weaken Shias to such an extent that neither they will influence others with their ideology, nor will they dare to stand up against the ruling elite. Kerry, Karzai buried the hatchet in Kabul, meeting in Afghanistan. Sequence of events. The first event was March 10th, 2013. Karzai says Taliban in service to America. My guess is that Karzai probably perceives that he's not getting a big enough cut of the opium pie. This is what Crypticon was saying. And 2 days later, March 12th, over 20 tons of heroin seized in Afghanistan. Can you hear me now? Then the 25th of March, John Skull and Bones Kerry makes unannounced trip to Afghanistan.
Smiles, everyone, smiles.
Pakistan says Karzai working with Taliban, as Afghanistan says Pakistan is useless in peace process. The rift between Pakistan and Afghanistan appears to be growing. Of course, this is probably engineered. Pakistani intelligence yesterday accused Karzai's administration of working with the Taliban, the same thing Karzai accused the U.S. of doing, working with Taliban groups allied with Pakistan's main Taliban faction. So it's interesting, once they bury the hatchet, then they go after him, right, through Pakistan's ISI, which we know is basically a Western intelligence proxy. Violence and vaccine fears keep polio from disappearing. Oh, is that what it is? Just fears? March 25th. And you got to remember, people like Bill Gates are the ones that want to, quote, eradicate polio. They're talking about eradicating people and ideology. 60 years after the first successful polio vaccine trial, the disease has been wiped out in much of the world. But violence, conspiracy theories, and lack of cash keep it from disappearing. So the world is closer than ever to eradicating polio. Says Rosenbauer, spokesman for the World Death Organization's Global Polio Eradication Initiative. They said the success seen in India, which has no new cases in 2 years, shows that eradicating polio is technically feasible. So I wonder if they wanted to, if they knew that when they did this, they were going to be trading in cases for polio-induced paralysis. Well, researchers have found that link, so they know about it. But it looks good for the polio numbers, right? And in India, where where they're sterilizing people, it's good for them too. So, and they know this too, because why would the same people that call for drastic population reduction measures be wanting to help people live longer? I mean, that's just common sense. That's just, if you were in a tribe, you'd want to protect your people from these type of villains or demons or whatever, outsiders from coming in and trying to kill your people off. I mean, if you don't have that natural instinct, that intellect, you're going to get wiped out. So, And they come in with a smile, right? That's what they usually do, with a nice tie and they're clean cut and they speak well. But efforts to end the disease face mounting risk brought on by violence against vaccine workers in the disease's last bastions. One of the examples that they use in the article, of course, when they're talking about conspiracy theories, they want you to think that because it's a conspiracy theory, it doesn't exist. We have here blowback. CIA ploy to kill bin Laden puts Pakistan's polio eradication campaign in peril. 9 murders of vaccination workers this week. This is from December 19th, 2012, not too long ago. Has direct correlation to CIA's foul polio campaign. The CIA's staging of a fake polio vaccination program in Pakistan in 2011 used by the U.S. spy agency to gain intelligence as it circled bin Laden says it has serious and deadly consequences, say the health officials. So they were collecting DNA, but the people don't want them anyways. You have gunmen kill a polio vaccinator in Pakistan from October 2012. Unknown gunmen killed a polio vaccinator in Pakistan's southwestern province of Baluchistan. And lastly, you have this just from January 30th, 2013. Pakistan polio vaccinators attacked by 3 masked men riding a single motorcycle. So, yeah, 3 guys on a motorcycle. Police say 4 children killed in Afghanistan night raid. So the Defense Ministry insists everyone slain was Taliban. Local police were confirming that a NATO-led night raid against Logar province left at least 5 civilians, including 4 children, dead and a number of others wounded. But the ministry says all those that were killed were armed. They claim 23 Taliban were killed. WikiLeaks says Iraqi children in U.S. raid shot in the head, says UN. U.S. diplomatic cable made public by WikiLeaks provides evidence that U.S. troops executed at least 10 Iraqi civilians, including a woman in her 70s and a 5-month-old infant, then called in an airstrike to destroy the evidence during a controversial 2006 incident in the central Iraq town of Ishaki. And BRICS, the BRIC basically group, has been, I guess, putting together a plan to have a central bank, their own central bank, and they just passed it today. So you have Syrian's president calls for BRICS assistance in ending violence. President Assad has called on BRICS group of emerging powers to stop the violence in the country, saying, I call on all BRIC leaders to work together to immediately stop the violence in Syria in order to guarantee the success of a political solution. He sent this message to the group. Says that he added that ending the nearly 2 years of deadly unrest in Syria requires a clear international will to dry up sources of terrorism and stop funding and arming foreign-backed militants fighting against Damascus. He said that his country is subjected to acts of terrorism backed by Arab, regional, and Western nations. And tie this in there, Obama vows aid for Syrian refugees in Jordan. We covered this already from the 23rd, but it'll tie into the next 2 articles. Syrian conflict figures in talks between the 2 heads of state as thousands of refugees continue to pour into Jordan by design. U.S. training Syrian militants in Jordan. Again, we already know this. This is the CIA, of course. Been involved training militants fighting against the Syrian government and neighboring country of Jordan. It's been taking place since last year. One thing that did come out, and something that we already knew, which was that the CIA was arming rebels, the terrorists, and that's been going on for at least a year now as well. Okay, so then we have this from March 26. Jordanian International Air Cargo, the secret airline that's reportedly flooding Syria with weapons. The New York Times uncovered a clandestine effort by the CIA and Arab governments to deliver military aid to rebel fighters in Syria through an airlift involving more than 160 flights of military-style cargo planes owned by Arab governments. So, it says perhaps the most intriguing aspect of the story is a flat denial from the Jordanian airline that the Times says is shipping tons of Croatian weapons to Syrian rebels, saying that this is all lies, we never did any such thing. 3 killed, many injured in Damascus car bombing. It says according to the officials, the explosion occurred in this Rukn Eden neighborhood on Tuesday, and that all victims were civilians. So, More terrorist bombings. Child killed as mortar hits Damascus schools. This is from the 26th as well. At least one child was killed and several others were wounded Tuesday in a mortar attack, which means it was the rebels, on a compound housing several schools. So they're attacking the schools again. A young girl was killed and several other students were injured when mortars fired by terrorists hit a school compound in the Baramika district of Damascus. Shells also landed on 2 other schools, injuring 4 civilians, including a teacher, and damaging the buildings. United Nations to move some staff out of Syria after mortar blast near a hotel. The UN will move about half of its 100 foreign staff out of Syria after mortar bombs fell near their hotel in Damascus, damaging the building and a UN vehicle. Yeah, so I mean, this is Reuters. Yeah, they actually have to admit it. Syrian rebels lobbed mortar rounds into central Damascus on Monday, which drew a fierce army response. Syrian opposition denies involvement in murder of controversial Kurdish cleric. You guys probably remember this last week. The prominent Syrian Kurdish Sunni cleric al-Bouti was killed with 41 others while delivering a religious lesson to students and his grandson at a Damascus mosque. Islamist secular rebels battle in Syria over al-Nusra Front's call for Islamic State. So see, they want Sharia law. And the secularists are saying no. 2 Syrian rebel groups, one seeking an elected civil government and the other favoring an establishment of a religious state, are battling each other out in the city of Tal Abyad on the border with Turkey, and a sign of the tensions that are likely to rule this country. It says here, if the government of Assad falls. It's more about when, right? Syrian opposition Alawites call for rebellion in army. The opposition activists from Syria's President Assad's Alawite sect called for his overthrow on Sunday and urged their co-religionists in the army to rebel. So we call on our brothers in the Syrian army, specifically members of our sect, not to take up arms against their people and to refuse to join the army. Well, this is how I know it's a propaganda piece. You know what I'm saying? I don't know all the facts on the ground over there, but the fact that they're saying that they're foreigners is a lie, right? Because all the reports that are coming out are that these guys are foreigners, and they're mostly Muslim extremists that have been listed as terrorist organizations by the U.S. So they're not really your brothers there. Syria's Shiites offer different picture of war. Shiite Muslims who fled Syria for Lebanon tell of an ethnic cleansing campaign by rebels intent on creating a Sunni-run Islamic State, and this is why Qatar and Sunnis, Salafists, Wahhabis, that's why they're all financially backing this, and politically too. It says here that the enemies are Sunni rebel terrorists. That's interesting. They call in quotes terrorists. They said these people used to be our neighbors. Now they want to kidnap and kill us. Iraq censors Arab League's decision to give Syria's seat to opposition. So not a very big surprise. The Arab League has no credibility to most real Muslims and Arabs. But they said a decision by the Arab League to hand Syria's government's seat to foreign-backed opposition is the infringement of the organization's charter. So this new Syrian rebel puppet leader urges respect for human rights at the Arab summit. Respect for human rights. Blowing up schools, I guess. Arab League violating its own charter on Syrian crisis, they say. They say that they violated their own charter with respect to the Syrian crisis and doing whatever they can to prevent any peaceful negotiated solution in Syria. Arab League Article 8 prohibits it from interfering in the internal affairs of any member country. This was September of last year, but Egyptian President to Syria's Assad stepped down before it's too late. So see, there you go. This is what they mean when they say Egypt and Pakistan trying to get in to end the violence. They want regime change. You have to remember, the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, that plays into Israel's preemptive attacking. You know, they're always on the defense, like I said. That's part of their strategy. But they don't like Syria because Syria is kind of an anti-Zionist front. Muslim Brotherhood are Western proxies, so there you go. Libya imprisons Americans for allegedly proselytizing Christianity in Benghazi. So the Libyan government is arresting Christians from different countries, including South Africa, South Korea, and Egypt, and one of the Egyptians was tortured by the Libyans while in detention. Egyptian mosque turned into house of torture for Christians after Muslim Brotherhood protests. So it's getting pretty dicey out there with the Muslim Brotherhood gangs going around. Brown shirts. Islamic hardliners stormed a mosque in suburban Cairo, turning it into a torture chamber for Christians who had been demonstrating against the ruling Muslim Brotherhood. Israel Defense Forces are planning for confrontation with Egypt. Special report on the Arab armies in the Middle East. They've prepared as titled Long Arm in the Region. It's a reference to the IDF planning a confrontation with Egypt. Anonymous hacks Mossad's website, gains access to the data of 30,000 spies. So the group has launched a series of cyber attacks against Israeli websites since November of 2012 in retaliation for Israeli attacks on the Gaza Strip, which Israel just recently made a statement and said, hey, we didn't do nothing wrong.